So deliberate actions rather and decisions are needed to boost employment and business successes for Black South Africans. That's according to the former National Treasury Director-General Dondo Mogajane. Mogajane says it's important not to only acknowledge our progress but to recommit to transformation. He joins us now to reflect on the successes and challenges of the past 30 years of democracy. Dondo, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. Looking at the piece that you've penned in the Times papers and zooming straight into Status A statistics from last year. So since 2013, the unemployment rate amongst Black people was at 27.1%. That unemployment figure has increased to 36.1% by the end of 2023. So that's nearly a 9% increase. Over the weekend, the president spoke about how, for instance, in 1994, we had 8 million people employed. That number has now increased to 16 million. Sure, there has been that increase. However, though, the unemployment figure has also increased. What went wrong?
Firstly, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. It's important, Eldrin, to recognize that, yes, we have done more. 8 more million people got employed. But the reality is that, let's not be emotional about this debate and discussion. We have stagnated. Many people remain unemployed. Poverty levels have increased, although there has been significant improvements the last 30 years. And that's what I was saying. What do I mean by saying we could do more? There are many, many things that we can, as a country, as an economy, can do. In my current role, for instance, as chairman of GPF, there's many, many things that we can do as a fund through the PIC to actually ensure that we do better. We force investee companies to do much more than what they've done in the last 30 years, at least those that are invested in.
Yeah, but what went wrong?
Look, it's not about what went wrong. It's about what needs to be done more. Because I don't want to be saying government should have done this or government did not do this. I think, look, let's not look backwards. Let's look forward and say, what is that? What opportunities exist, Eldrin, that we can do more to actually change the lot for the poor? The reality is that I said in the past that we focused on many things. I mean, building a state is not easy. I mean, we're only 30 years old now. And, democracies out there are 100, 200 years old. They've matured. They've done wrong things in the past, but they've actually come out better off. So I think we're in the same stage as a country here. We are only 30 years old. We learned from the mistakes of the past. Yep. The good, and could be some of the policies, could be some of the focus that we relied on. And look, recorrecting the past injustices and past imbalances. 30 years is too short a period to have done everything correct. Yeah. So that's my assertion.
Yeah, but isn't it important to also acknowledge what went wrong so that we steer away from what went wrong? For instance, you speak about the PIC, 2.6 trillion rand, an asset manager that has 2.6 trillion rand, the biggest on the continent. And I wonder if the PIC itself also doesn't bear some of the responsibility around what has gone wrong in our economy.
We've acknowledged that many times. The Empathy Commission was very clear in terms of, by the way, it's about 2.3 trillion, not 2.6. We are aspiring to get there. We will soon get there because.
Well, I'm reading it off. I'm reading it off their website. It says 2.6.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. The numbers, but anyway, it's more. Let's say for now, it's more than 2 trillion.
Okay.
The issue here is that the PIC could have done well. We know what the Empathy Commission said, and look, we've corrected that, and we are correcting that. Almost 90% of the empathy recommendations have been implemented or are being implemented as we speak. So, yeah, we're nudging the PIC in the right direction. Wrong choices, investments that did not bear the fruit, wrong investments that they could have done. So, and that language is what we're talking about. And I think, look, we've upped the game for them as a GPF. We said active ownership is important. We said shareholder activism must be critical because we can do it. We can force companies to invest do the right things, to actually ensure that we change the lot for the poor. We didn't do that initially, but I think it's important that the PIC actually has to correct, and they are correcting. And I'm happy that we are on the right track with them in ensuring that we correct those wrong things that happened in the past.
Yeah. So when we say acknowledging the injustices of the past, and our preamble of the Constitution acknowledges that as well, what does that mean for the business sector, for black people who are in business as well? How then does the financial sector respond to acknowledging the injustices of the past?
Access to finance is important. Conditions that should be, imposed should actually take into account this. But I'm not saying they must be reckless, especially the financial services sector in lending. We cannot be obviously, lending to only recognize that. We should balance that against what kind of investments as a country and as a fund we want to make that will bear and ensure that there's a fund in the next 20, 30 years, a fund that is actually defined, as we all know, that people can actually get their benefits without worrying. But also balance that with the good investments that we have to make. Balance that with policies that will ensure that access to finance by black people in particular. And also, and I've been saying for now, it's like a stark record. We've been saying the financial services sector must transform and we must actually use the influence that we have as a fund to ensure that black people in particular gain access to finances. Because this is one thing that we have not corrected in 30 years. That if we look at the empowerment credentials of this country, it leaves much to be desired.
Yep.
I'm of the view that we have to advance black people. We have to advance access to finances by black enterprises, including small, medium enterprises, because that is actually holding the economy backwards. And that, in a way, has to be corrected moving forward.
What does that look like? Also considering, of course, the shares that the PIC holds in a number of financial institutions. What does that look like? What does the transformation element look like?
I want us to, shareholder activism must be where we have board seats. Where we have board seats, we're entitled to them, we must use them and bring them on and say, our representatives or PIC nominees or GPF nominees in these boards must actually ensure that the financial service sector and all of the investee companies, including many other sectors, adopt and embrace the transformation policies that we've launched last year in November. That's number one. Number two, I think when I say transformation of the financial and access to access by black people to finances, that obviously will change the lot for the poor. I mean the following. Firstly, it's important that we recognize that in the past, black people in particular were looked as second, in the second instance, not in the first instance. So how do we ensure that we actually prioritize businesses that firstly have got the potential to grow, prioritize businesses that can actually invest in the future of this country, prioritize business that can actually ensure that it's towards ensuring that the social infrastructure is addressed, active ownership, processes and systems are being implemented. Without doing that and be deliberate about that, I can tell you we're going to spend another 30 years, Elton, without looking back and saying we've done there's a different kind of intervention needed for poor people and for black people in particular.
Yeah.
That's why I said initially, we cannot be emotional about this thing. We have to be practical in terms of what is that this economy in the last 30 years have done for black people. Very, very little.
Do you think that BEE is an impediment to achieving that success? And I want to use here the story of Starlink. Elon Musk wanted to invest in the country to set up Starlink. The communications department, as well as ICASA, said that you need to have 30% ownership of all internet service providers must be in the hands of previously disadvantaged groups. And then Starlink decided that actually not. Let's not invest in the country anymore. Is that an impediment?
Black economic empowerment cannot be an impediment to success. We must be definite about it. Because if we actually are going to be scared to say these things openly like I'm saying them now, then we're on the wrong path in changing the countries and the countries moving forward. We cannot continue to be apologetic about this in particular. Investments has to take into account that this country 30 years ago was in a different state. We have to take into account that apartheid caused damages to our minds, to the way we live and the places we live in. So without actually ensuring that we move with this at the back of our minds, we're not going to move. We mustn't be sympathetic to a view that suggests that black economic empowerment is wrong. No, we have to correct the imbalance of the past, but we have to do that with care. And that's why I'm saying, with the might of the more than 2 trillion that we have and the investments that we make, we should ensure that investee companies that we are invested in take this into account and change the lot for black people in particular and for the poor. We cannot be apologetic about it. And I'm sorry, if there's a view out there that says B is wrong, then I don't agree with that.
Thank you so much for your time. That's the former National Treasury Director-General Dondo Mogajane speaking there to us about 30 years into our democracy and looking at the state of the economy. We're going to take